with that being said, again, Idit, I already introduced you yesterday. Your role has changed. You have been an expert for the SAP Business One expert for many, many years in North America. And now you are the market lead. Is that correct? The market unit lead?
Market unit lead. Yeah, so I actually do, other than Business One, I'm kind of a generalist. So I coordinate enablement efforts for our partners throughout North America, both for, Business One. So I'm still wearing the Business One hat, but also the rest of SAP portfolio.
Fantastic. I wanted to congratulate you on that, because I think it's a promotion, and I think I haven't formally congratulated you, so congratulations, Idit. Very well deserved. Very well deserved, but please continue to have us SAP Business One in your heart. I know you do.
Always.
And this is just like, it goes to show that you do. So thank you very much for staying close to us as well. And now let's just enjoy your presentation, Idit. I'm very excited because I myself, I'm starting to use the web client, and I love it. So it's always great to learn more. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing so that you can share.
Okay. Thank you, Clara.
Thank you.
So we'll go also off the video,
yes,
so you can focus on the presentation. You go ahead and share.
Thank you, Idit.
And let's start. Hello and welcome to the SAP Business One Web Client Review. My name is Idit Saguey. I'm an SAP Market Unit Lead and a Business One product expert. In today's session, we're going to take a look at the web client that was introduced a couple of years ago, but has grown since to make it a really viable solution for you as a customer to use on your daily routine. So what is the web client? It is based on Fiori, a design principle, where you can see a more modern look with different tiles and dashboards that you can access. But it does encapsulate all of the Business One core processes and business logic. So there is really almost no learning curve from you to switch from the standard Business One application to the web client. It's focused on creating, processing, and updating CRM, opportunities, sales documents, purchasing documents, and payments. You can create and update items, business partners, activities, and timesheet. It supports service calls, solutions, and equipment cards. It has sophisticated analytics and charting capabilities, as well as predefined analytics content. In terms of deployment, you have a flexible option. You can use it on-premise and in the cloud. It can be side by side with a standard Business One client. There's a lot of integration built in to Microsoft 365, Word and Excel, to Outlook 365, to Teams, and it does have some extensibility capabilities such as user-defined tables, fields, and objects. There are URL mashups and SAP Fiori, as well as HTML5 app support. It also has an SAP Companion, which is a web assistant within the application. Let's take a look directly at the web client. Let's start with an overview of the web client, how I can access it and navigate through it. When I'm in Business One, I can go ahead and launch it from the toolbar right here, or from the administration menu and the web client. At this point, I'm going to have a browser open with the related URL. Of course, I can bookmark it and access it directly through the bookmark later on. I'm going to go ahead and select my company and enter my credentials. Of course, all the credentials, the license type and authorizations will apply to the web client as well. As I'm launching the web client, I can see the different tabs or groups. If I scroll to the right, I can see all the way to user-defined objects, tables, accounting, service, and so on, extensions, links. When I click on a certain tab, I'm going to jump into what we call the apps in that group, in this case, sales. So I see all the sales apps that are related to this module. And I can always go to my home screen to see kind of the most used or the most frequently used apps. I can click on the login here. I'm logged in as Jason Butler. And there's different things I can do here. For example, I can edit my home screen. When I do that, I'm in edit mode, and I can go ahead and, for example, delete certain apps. I can add apps through the app finder. If I click on the app finder, for example, I want to add to my home screen activities. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the activities, and it's going to be added to my home. Navigating back. Now I have activities in home. I can add new groups, which will show up at the top over here, and I can hide groups. I can also drag and drop from one group to another. Going back to the login, another way of doing this is going straight to the app finder. And for example, if I want to add the create sales quotation to my home screen, I can do that as well. Going back here, settings. I can go ahead and identify settings for the user. For example, the appearance, which interface I want to use. I can choose some display settings on the home screen. I can choose to show all the content or one group at a time. I can identify certain settings like language and hour and messages and so on. Let's go ahead and exit the edit mode. And if I go back here once again, I can see recently used apps and frequently used. So if I'm not sure what I just used last time, I can very easily find it here. Now, if I go back to the main screen, of course, I can navigate through the apps, and we'll get into that more. But what I want to do is a search. So this is similar to the enterprise search in SAP Business One. I can search, a name. I can search an object. For example, I want to search Far East, which is one of my vendors. And I can see everything that contain Far East in this case. I can apply a filter. For example, I only want to see the business partner in this case, and scroll into the master data where I can see a similar screen with different groups. If I want to see general information, additional data, contact person, and so on, as well as user-defined fields. So any user fields are included in all the objects that are supported. At the top here, I can see some information on the account balance, open deliveries and orders. This is a vendor, but on the customer master, I'm also going to see credit limits. I can also view different things like create additional documents and transactions, business partner catalog numbers, and view analytics, which we're going to go into a little bit later. Now, since I this vendor is kind of important to me. I want to be able to share it, to share this search with another user in the system. So what I can do is share, and I have two options. I can email, and what this will do, it's going to open up an email with a link to this enterprise search. So if I just copy the link quickly and open a new tab, it's going to bring me directly to the same enterprise search that I was at before. So somebody else can go in immediately to whatever filters I apply, whatever search I apply. And then another thing I can do is go ahead and share it as a tile or save it as a tile. So I can, leave it, search for Far East, and I can choose where to put it. I can add the description. But if I click OK and go back to home, it's going to show up the search for Far East. And again, if this is a search that I keep doing over and over again, it's probably wise to save it as a tile. Going back to my home screen, I can see I have a notification for request for approval. If I click on notification here, I can see that I got a request from Kate regarding an internal requisition. As for the notifications, I can choose to have them present at all time on the right-hand side, or I can only access them by clicking on the link. And this is something you're going to set up in the user setting that I've shown earlier. I can prioritize, or I can sort by date and by priority. Another nice option is to open the help. When I do that, I can access a lot of help information regarding the web client directly from here. For example, I can learn more about the homepage, and what this will do, it's going to open the online help on the help.sap.com for web client. If I click, for example, on main menu, it's going to show me where it is, and I can see some more information about it. I can see the user area, the search button, and more. I can also access different videos, like how to start with web client. This is going to lead me to a page that's called a Learn Business One Web Client, which is a page you all need to kind of be familiar with. Where if I go to the home, I can see a lot of short, informative videos regarding the web client. If you look here, I can see some new videos that lately were released. I can see information about the web client analytics. And all the way at the bottom, I can access user guides, the community page, and so on. So very important area to be aware of. I can get the guided tours regarding certain features that are included in the web client. And yeah, at the moment we have 2, but we're growing them as we go. And I can see what's new in the web client by just clicking on a specific area. It's going to show me directly in the application where these new features are included. Now let's go ahead and create a whole process from sales quotation all the way to a payment. So you get a feel of how it is to work with the web client interface. If I go ahead and jump into sales and sales quotation, this is what we call a list view. A list view can have multiple views. For example, now I'm at my sales quotation, which really what it means is that the user signature is filtered by my user, current user, As well, the status is only open quotations. I can have those multiple views. We're going to touch on it later when we talk about analytics. But as a quick overview, I can see, in this case, my open sales quotations. I can drill down to the customer code. I can adjust the columns in this table by going into the settings over here. If I need to add additional columns or remove columns, I can sort it, I can filter it, and I can group it, for example, by customer name. Let's go ahead and click OK, and now the same list is grouped by customer. Can go ahead and expand, and then I'm back to seeing the actual quotation. A nice advantage as well on the list view is the ability to select multiple and then apply certain actions on multiple documents. For example, I can close all of those documents together. I can copy all of them together to a higher level document, and I can preview all of them. Preview will simulate a printout. Basically, it's going to use the print template, and it's going to bring up a PDF based on the default template to those quotations in this case. Going back to this quotation, let's say I'm going to drill down to one of the quotes. Similar to the other windows, I'm going to have the different groups with different fields available. I can see a bit of information about the customer, and I can apply certain actions on the quote. A nice option is that I can also preview just this particular quote. I can choose an email option. For example, if I want to attach the quote as a Word file, as an Excel file, as a PDF, or as a link. And then when I send, I'm going to have to register myself to Microsoft 365, which I don't have currently. But once I have all the credentials in place, it's going to be integrated with Microsoft 365 to send the email out to my customer. Let's go back to the list view, and in this case, I'm going to create a new quotation. I can pin the top of the window, so no matter what I do, let's pin it. No matter if I kind of scroll down, I'm still going to see the top area. And let's start creating the quote. So first, I'm going to select my customer. Let's pick MaxiTech over here. Of course, as you're just used to, I have all the fields from the customer, dates, sales employee, and so on. I can click on content to move to the items area. I'm going to select a few items. By the way, I can include items with serial numbers, of course, and select the serial number to be released. Again, here I have a nice option, which I don't have in the standard client, is to highlight multiple rows and, for example, delete or duplicate them. I can also copy rows and then paste it in a new document. I can adjust, of course, the fields that show up, just like the form settings that we know, and apply discounts, change quantities, and so on. Of course, I can delete multiple rows and also change the location of the row in the document. If I continue to scroll down, I see freight information and logistics information where I can see addresses, ship to and bill to. A nice little feature is the integration with Google Maps. If I click on the map icon, it's going to show me the location on the map. And I can also define a new address directly from the document. So for example, let's enter something, Boston Drive. Just put in a number. This is not a real address. And another nice feature is the ability to add the BP master data. So if I go ahead and say yes, the address will be added to the master data itself. So I can call it Miami address. And is it going to be default or not? And I'm going to say OK. So now the address is here, but it's also, if I drill down to the customer master, it's also going to be over there. If I keep going, I see the rest of the fields. If I had any user-defined fields, they would show up as another group. I don't have in this case, but they will show up at the end of the document. So at this point, I can save it as a draft, or I can add it to the system. So the quote was created successfully. It's 1190. Let's go back for a second here and look at MaxiTech. And here is the quote I just created. Now let's continue the process. After I know already how to work with documents in the web client, I can create a new activity, for example. I can cancel or close. I can duplicate the document. But at this point, I'm going to copy it to a sales order. And everything is the same. I just need to enter a delivery date. I can just verify that everything is good. If I want to remove items, change quantities, I'm going to add the sales order. And continue. Let's go ahead and skip delivery, and I'm going to go ahead and create an AR invoice for this order. And again, the same exact information is rolling over to the invoice. Only, of course, this time I'm going to have the accounting information, like the journal entry, and so on. Now I'm getting a warning that I cannot change this document. Let's go ahead and add tax information. For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to only copy one row. And now I can save the document. At this point, I can pay the invoice. Click on Pay. And it's going to create an incoming payment. I'm going to find my invoice. I have a long list of open invoices here, and it's already checked, and I get the early payment discount. Let's go ahead and select the appropriate payment means. In this case, let's keep it simple, do a bank transfer. Go to my checking account. And can go ahead and save the payment. Now, if I go ahead and click on the relationship map, I can see the invoice and the payment. If I go ahead and click on the invoice itself, and click on the relationship map, I can see the entire process from the sales order, from the quotation to the sales order, all the way to the invoice and the billing. The Business One web client is not only an interface to enter my transaction, but it's also a very powerful analytical tool. Let's go back to the sales quotes which we started from and see what else we can do here. I mentioned before that you have different views for any app that you're opening. So for example, I have my open sales quotation, all sales quotation, my sales quotation, open or closed, there's no status, or just open sales quotations for all users. So there's no filtering on user signature, but the status is open. I'm going to go to all sales quotation and kind of go from there, make some changes there. First thing I can do is export it to Excel. So any list that you can see here, you can export to Excel and continue there. In addition to the list view that is a table view, you can view it as a chart. So what is a chart? It really is kind of a dashboard that shows the data graphically in an easy to consume way. So by default, it's going to summarize the record count, but that's not what I want. Let's, for example, choose document total and gross profit. So what am I seeing now is my quotations and the number, total number for document total and gross profit. This doesn't help me much, so I'm going to add some measures, some dimensions. For example, I can use customer name. So now I can see by customer, document total and gross profit, but I'm going to choose a different chart, maybe this one, so I can see it a little better. I can add filters if I wanted to. If I wanted to see only, for example, open ones, no problem with that. Once I refresh, I'm going to see different numbers. But I can also adapt filters, meaning I can add or remove filters from the list view here. I can go ahead and do a search on what I'm looking for example, posting date. And I'm going to say, OK. And now when I click on the posting date through the filtering, there's a lot of options for filtering dates. So it's actually have different dynamic functions to define the date filtering. You can do date range, for example. You can do today, for example. I want to see all the quotations from today. Now, what's nice about this is that since I'm using a dynamic function, when I open the same report tomorrow, it's still going to know to adjust the date, and it's going to show me tomorrow's date. I can do last few days, for example, but I'm going to do last 5 years worth of quotations. So here is my chart. I'm pretty much happy with it. Some things I can do here is highlight certain areas of the chart. And once I do, I can also see the details of what it's composed of. I can also kind of drag my mouse around multiple areas and again see those details and export it to Excel if I wanted to. I can zoom in, I can zoom out. It's a very dynamic report. So now that I'm happy with this view, I can go ahead and save it. I can call it, give it a significant name like open quotes. By customer, chart. I can set it as default, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to make it public so others can see it as well. So now when I look at my view, list my views, I can see the view I just created. Let's go back to all open sales quotations, and this time I'm going to create a card view. So a card view is very similar to the chart, only I can have multiple charts in one card. So I'm going to click on edit, and I'm going to start adding my cards. So for example, I'm going to use the measure. Let's do something similar that I did before, like document total and gross profit. I'm going to do it this time by posting date year. You would notice that in the web client, the dates are handled in a very special way because it takes a posting date which contains of the day, the month, the year, and it aggregates it automatically. So I really don't have to calculate the year out of the date. It's already there. I just need to use it. So I'm going to give it a name quickly. Quotes by year, for example. And now I can add another chart. Maybe this time it's going to be something else. Like just document total, but in this case, I'm going to do by sales employee. And I'm going to use a different type of chart. I have to select it once again. Each chart has their own kind of options. And I can go on and add additional charts that all their data sources are relying on the sales quotation because I'm in the sales quotation list view. Once again, I'm enjoying this. I like it. I'm going to finish editing. Of course, I can add filtering if I wanted to, but at this point, I'm just going to save it. And now if I go back to my home screen and open sales quotation again, I can toggle between the different views that I just created. To conclude the list view, it's not just a list. It really is a powerful analytical tool that you can use to analyze the data inside this app, which in this case, it's a sales quotation. Of course, for any type of app that exists here, you can do the same. The web client can also use user-defined queries that are saved in the database of Business One. As well, you can create new queries directly here in the web client. I'm going to use the user-defined queries app to first of all view the queries that are saved in the database. I can see by category. For example, my orders, if I kind of hover over it, I can see This is a query regarding sales orders, and it includes additional tables like the sales employee tables and the user table, all kind of joined together to get me a nice report. Another example is to use the data source to be one of the HANA calculation views. So in this case, it's using the sales analysis by document calculation view. A big advantage of using queries is the fact that I can actually query objects and apps that are not yet supported by the web client, but I can still create analysis around them. So for example, I have here production orders that I want to look at. But again, I don't have production orders yet in the web client, so I can create a query to query those production orders. Just to note that queries that have parameters and filtering will not show up in the web client because there is really no space for user input for those parameters. When I go into, for example, this query, I can see it's a simple query, select star from production orders. I'm able to see the columns that are included, and I can even see a preview of the data from that table. If I want to make changes to it, I can click on Edit. And for example, if I want to change the table name, for example, if I type in OINV, which is AR invoices. So the system actually suggests existing tables and views that are saved in the database. If I look, for example, for sales analysis, I can see the HANA calculation views that are saved here, and I can query them as well. So I don't have to type in that complicated syntax in order to find an object in the system. Let's go back to OWOR, which is the production order table. And some things I can do here is, first of all, I can do a link between certain columns. Let's scroll down here a little bit. For example, I can link the product number to the OITM to the item code. What this will help me is later when I create the list view for this query, I'm going to have a drill down to the item master data. Of course, if I have business partners here or anything else, I can add additional linking. I can also identify for measure type fields. I can identify whether it's a measure or a dimension, the aggregation, and the decimal places. And I can also modify the description of the column to make it more kind of user-friendly. If I want to select specific fields, I'll just put it in double parentheses. For example, I want to see the customer code. I want to see the item code, and maybe quantity, planned quantity. So now it's going to refresh the query. I can also activate it, meaning I can use it as data source for different analytics. And I can see here the 3 fields that I selected. I can click on Update to save my changes. And the next step is to open it in List View. And here is my list view. I know the data is not great. I have some customers, I have the product number, and the planned quantity. Now, this is a list view like any other. If you remember what we just saw, we can export it to Excel, we can add filtering, we can use it as a chart and as a card. After seeing the list view and the queries, I would like to show you the general overview functionality. So if I go to the analytics and to general overview, it may look at first look, it's going to look the same because it's a bunch of charts and graphs and, you know, some information that is grouped together. However, the difference is that with a general overview analytics tool, I can combine multiple data sources into the same dashboard. So if you look here, for example, I have sales information with purchasing, with inventory, with financials, with items, with inventory quantity sold. So really different modules within the system that are combined together. So it really does give me a good overview of everything that I can possibly need in one dashboard. Another difference, you would notice there is no filtering at the top because you cannot actually filter the whole dashboard, because again, each card here is using different data sources. So if you wanted to filter, you're going to edit this dashboard and you're going to go into the individual cards to make those filters. So while we're here, let's look at this example. This is a sales analysis by sales amount kind of analysis. You can see it's by customer group, by years, right? Each color represents a year. By the way, here as well, I can kind of see the details when I select certain pieces of the chart. Now, a big difference is that I have a data source where before, when I was in a quote list view, I could only create a chart for quotations, but now I can select from any of the apps that are supported within the web client, as well as queries. So remember, I said that you can use the query as a data source for analytics, not only as a list view, but as part of the general overview dashboard. So if I choose the work order query, if you remember, we had just a couple of fields there. We had the plant quantity and we had the product information. So I can see, again, plant quantity by product. Another nice option is the filters. Let's actually cancel out on this because I do want to show you some of the filters here. If I go back to the original card, I can see I have a posting date filter, and if I click on it, I can see a nice formula that looks at negative 10 years, meaning going back 10 years up until today. And you can also see a preview of the date range that you received over here. I'm going to switch to a different view, which is delivered as well by SAP. It's the last 4 completed calendar quarters. So what this does, it does a full analysis of the company for the last 4 quarters, meaning it's going back 4 quarters from actually September, right? Because now we're in November, we're in the middle of the last quarter. So it's looking at quarter 3, 2, and 1 of 2022 and the last quarter of 2021. How do we do that? Again, really nice date offset functionality. If I edit this card and look at the filter on posting date, I can see what the calculation is when I look at the quarter, and the beginning of the date range is going back 1 year and reading that quarter from today, right? And then it ends 1 year going back at the end of the quarter minus a day. So this is actually quarter 3 in this case of, quarter 4 of 2021. If we take a look at this example of the last quarter, I guess Q3 of 2022, and those filters, you're going to see it's actually counting going back 1 year plus 4 quarters minus a day. And this exactly gives you the date range of quarter 3, calendar quarter 3. Very sophisticated date functionality here. And then again, if I take a look, I see invoices for the last 4 quarters, top business partner group sales for the last 4 quarters, sales employee analysis, top item sales analysis, and top purchasing analysis. Now, finally, let's go ahead and look at the last example. Here is the customer 360. Here I've included, this is a user-defined kind of view. Here I included some sales information for the last 10 years, top selling items, gross profit versus sales, invoice by month, and some more analysis. Now, what I'm going to do with it is going back to the previous screen and linked list views. So this gives me an option to link views that I created ahead of time to apps in the system. For example, I'm going to select the business partners. And what I did was I called it Customer 360. The list view could be either the general overview or any of the other apps in the system, as well as queries and user objects. And then once I selected the general overview, I can see the views that are saved over there. So in this case, I'm not using the standard, I'm not using the last 4 completed, I'm using the Customer 360. Now the next step is to make the joins. Right? So I need to tell the system to which customer, because I'm at the business partner master data, the information is going to be displayed. So what I have to do next is go one by one for every card inside that view and select the filtering. So I'm saying that the customer code in the card needs to be equal to the BP code in the business partner master data. So now when everything is linked, of course, if I go back, I can do that to almost or to any app in the system. If I want to link it to items, if I want to link it to a document, I can do that as well. But after the link already exists, I can go ahead and open a business partner. Let me go to my home and business partner. And I'm going to select one of my customers right here. And if you remember in the beginning, I mentioned there are views that I can link to business partner master data, and this is exactly it. This is where I can see my customer 360 linkage. By the way, I can make the link as well directly from here. So instead of going to that other screen, I can do it from here. And if I run this view, Customer 360, what I'm going to get is the same report that we've seen before, but filtered for MaxiTech, right? So I'm going to see different numbers. I'm seeing top sales items for MaxiTech and gross profit versus sales for this customer and invoice totals by month for this customer. So really seeing everything I want to see regarding this customer. And that's very easy to do. It may look a little complicated at the moment, but all you need to do is really build your cards and thinking about how and which cards are making sense to link to the business partner in this example, and then make the link like we did before. So this is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to web client analytics and web client in general. There is more to do here, of course. For example, you can actually export and import the views. Once you have, a repository of good views, you can save them and import them to another company database, and really play around with the date range and the dashboarding. And really, there is so much you can do to support your day-to-day job, to really get better insight into your business processes as you go along the day. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you found this beneficial. I do encourage you to reach out to Consensus to explore web clients, start using it. The more customers use it, the better it gets, and the more feedback we get from the field will help us, SAP, to make it better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Idit. Thank you so much. That was a fantastic presentation on the web client, and we do have some questions. So we're going to try to get to some of these before we close the session, if you don't mind. One of our customers is asking, will I see my add-ons on the web client?
So there is some extensibility functionality in the web client. It's still a little bit limited, but it's not going to be automatic. It's going to need to be kind of recompiled to work with the web client. So it's a case-by-case scenario. So you can add additional tiles, which leads to an add-on.
Okay.
But it's really kind of like a link. It's not as much embedded as you probably expect.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. And here I have another question. I have my screens showing exactly what I want. If I log into the web client, will that come over?
So no, actually, it is a completely different interface. As you've seen, if you want to adjust what you're seeing there, you're going to have to adjust it over there. For example, user-defined fields are showing like at the end of the screen, not like you're kind of used to in the standard client, but all the data is available. So it's going to look a little different, but in terms of the business processes, they are the same as you've seen.
Okay.
And you will need to make some adjustments.
Okay, so if you made adjustments to your UI in the desktop client, you're going to have to reproduce that in the web client. So
correct.
Do it. But once you do it, every time you log in, you will see it the way you want, correct?
Correct.
Like the UI.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep.
Can I be logged in the web client in one device and the desktop client at the same time with the same user? On a different device, I guess.
Good question. I think so. I'm not 100%. I didn't try. I mean, I know for the manager user, I was obviously able to, but I can test it and let you know.
Okay. 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 And I think that those were all the questions that we had. I don't know if you have anything more to add. For me, the question is when it's a good time to start using the web client, and I think it's as soon as possible.
I agree. I mean, I think at this point, we do have kind of a good amount of functionality. And again, I understand it's not 100%. But I do encourage you have it, right? If you have version 10, you can, it's part of the standard installation, so you can just log in, and see what you get, log into a demo company and start playing around with it and see if you have enough of what you need. Again, maybe not for all the users, maybe for some of the users. But as I mentioned, also yesterday and today, that the main thing is really to to get your feedback. So once you
Mhm.
start using and you go ahead into and you see, you know, you really need something, it's a showstopper. Let me give you an example. Like a year ago, you couldn't select items with serial numbers and batch
Oh,
numbers, and that was a big showstopper for a lot of the customers. And we put some pressure on product management, and you know, they added it in the next feature pack. So
super.
the more, you know, the more you go into the influence portal and give feedback, the more we know which features are more important to have right
Prioritize, yeah.
now, yeah,
Mhm.
higher priority, and versus things that can be postponed to a later patch.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Idit.
Thank you,
Thank you
Clara.
again.
Thank you,
And
guys.
thank you everybody for joining us. Please remember to rate this content, leave your comments with suggestions, or if you have additional questions, you can always write us an email. And I hope I'll see you in the next sessions of the Customer Day. Thank you and have a wonderful day.